Thank you for watching the video. This is YouTube Medical University. Suddenly, here's a shocking fact. If you break the bone at the base of your leg, there is a Japanese study that says about 50% of people die within 10 years. Breaking a bone is not just an injury. It actually follows a course as serious as a heart attack or stroke. So this time, let's talk about how to prevent osteoporosis. Even if you develop it, what methods are there to keep it from progressing? I'll discuss diets and exercises you can try starting today, and also, what kind of disease is osteoporosis? And at the end of the video, I'll share the one thing you absolutely must do to prevent osteoporosis. I'll cover key nutrients and the best ways to take them. Watch until the end. Osteoporosis is said to affect about 1 in 5 women in their 60s, and incredibly, by their 80s, 1 in 2 women will have osteoporosis. Many people ignore issues because they feel fine, but later, weakened legs and hips can lead to falls and fractures. While some recover well after treatment, many experience further weakness, declining strength, and additional illnesses during hospitalization. According to research in the United States, if you break the bone at the base of your leg, astonishingly, 1 in 5 people will my baby. There is data showing that about 20% of people had passed away within a year. In order to live vibrantly in the latter half of your life, to walk on your own feet, go out to eat delicious food or travel, I really hope you'll listen to this until the end. I really don't want you to miss this first session. I'll discuss 3 main osteoporosis symptoms in this session and cover my recommended tests and treatments in the next. And in the third session, I want to explain 3 ways to prevent osteoporosis in the first place. In the first session, I'll cover 3 osteoporosis symptoms you shouldn't ignore. The first symptom of osteoporosis is this: your back becomes rounded and your height decreases. This symptom is pretty easy to understand, isn't it? Everyone, please take a look at this image. The bones in the spine become fragile, and with just a little impact, or even without doing anything in particular, the bones can naturally collapse like this. And since the front side often collapses, your posture naturally becomes hunched forward, and people might say your back looks rounded. In such cases, we suspect a spinal fracture caused by osteoporosis. And as a result, your height decreases. It is said that if your height has shrunk by more than 2 centimeters compared to your tallest point, there is a high possibility that your spine has fractured, so please try comparing your height. Why? Why do bones become so fragile and porous like this? Women especially need to be careful. Our bones are maintained by a balance between cells that build bone and cells that break it down. For women, female hormones actually help maintain this balance by suppressing the cells that break down bone. However, when women reach menopause and their hormone levels decrease, this suppression no longer works, and the cells that break down bone become more active, causing bones to start deteriorating rapidly. It's easier to remember if you know the reasons. Don't overlook this. The second main symptom of osteoporosis is periodontal disease. Isn't this surprising? Osteoporosis and periodontal disease. If you think about it, teeth are also made of calcium. So, since bones and teeth are made from the same material, when your bones are weak, your teeth are often weak as well. That's why it's common to notice osteoporosis from symptoms in your teeth. In other words, when your teeth become fragile and you have periodontal disease, there's a high possibility that osteoporosis is also occurring at the same time. In fact, there is a lot of data reporting this kind of thing. Osteoporosis usually has no symptoms at all. One of the few signs that can help you notice it is periodontal disease or symptoms in your teeth. So if you are going to the dentist, I recommend asking about your bones and whether your teeth are becoming fragile. And if you are even a little bit concerned, I will explain in the next section what kind of tests you should get, so please listen until the end. The third symptom of osteoporosis that you absolutely shouldn't overlook is this: there are no symptoms. It may seem odd to call no symptoms a main symptom, but I wanted to stress the lack of symptoms, so I included it. It's a shocking fact. A fracture of the spine is called a compression fracture, and actually, among people whose spinal bones are crushed or fractured, 2 out of 3, meaning about 2/3, don't even notice any symptoms. Isn't this surprising? Most people think that when a bone breaks, it causes intense pain. Actually, more than half of people have no symptoms at all, even if their spine is fractured. They go about walking or doing housework as usual. Without even realizing it in their daily lives, their bones may have fractured. And if the fracture progresses without being noticed, the bone can become deformed, or their posture can deteriorate. And eventually, the area inside the spine Compressed nerves can cause sciatica, a sharp pain from the lower back down the legs. You might also have intermittent claudication, where leg pain or numbness occurs while walking, making it hard to walk long, along with lower back pain and other symptoms. By then, the bone has already collapsed and hardened. Surgery is no longer an option. All you can do is take painkillers. This is what usually happens. In fact, many of the patients who come to my clinic also had no symptoms. Osteoporosis doesn't have symptoms, and it's hard to notice. So please, I hope you'll learn about the screening tests that will be introduced in the next section. I'll give a brief explanation from a doctor's perspective about what treatment options are available when you're diagnosed with osteoporosis. If you'd like to hear about prevention right away, skip to the third section. Earlier, I noted that most people don't realize when their spinal bones are fractured. Some believe it's fine to ignore a bone fracture without symptoms, but there is surprising data about this. People with lower back vertebrae fractures have a 1.7 times higher future mortality rate than those without fractures. Additionally, people with 3 or more lower back fractures have a mortality rate 3.3 times higher than those without. If your bone is close to breaking or you have a fracture, taking early measures in situations like this to prevent further fractures actually leads to actions that help lower your future mortality rate. How do we detect it early? The answer is dual energy X-ray absorptiometry. It means performing an imaging test to measure bone density. This is simple. You lie on an X-ray table like this, and your spine and the base of your legs are X-rayed to measure your bone density. There is almost no radiation exposure, and it doesn't hurt. This test is easy to do, and is generally recommended for everyone. Even among women over the age of 65, only 5% have had this bone density test. It's not very common. After 65, 1 in 5 people has osteoporosis, and the rate rises further in their 70s and 80s. In fact, many of the people who come to my outpatient clinic have no symptoms, but when I suggest they take the test during a checkup, it turns out they have osteoporosis. There are many people who are glad they found out early. In some municipalities, bone density tests are offered as part of health checkups, and discounts are available. Check with your local municipality to see if they offer osteoporosis screenings. Generally, it is recommended that women over the age of 65 have this test every 3 to 5 years, so please use that as a guideline. In addition, if you have a history of fractures, are taking steroids, which can weaken your bones, drink heavily or smoke. If you have rheumatoid arthritis, or if your parents have fractured the bones at the base of their legs, if any of these risks apply to you, you should get a bone density test. Please consider testing if you fit any of these categories. In addition to the tests I just mentioned, there are also clinics that offer screening tests such as ultrasound, bone density tests of the arm, or bone density tests of the leg. I recommend that you try these tests first to get an idea of the condition of your bones. Hospitals may use different methods like blood tests or interviews and may estimate future fracture risk as a percentage. They check bone density and assess future fracture risk. Consult your primary doctor or an osteoporosis specialist. Please try consulting with internal medicine or orthopedic departments. If you are diagnosed with osteoporosis there, medications that suppress bone destruction or even promote bone formation will be used. Some oral or injectable medications are taken weekly, while other injections are given monthly or every 6 months. There are various treatment options available, so please consult with your primary doctor and choose the most appropriate treatment together. And along with that, it's important to take vitamin D, which is essential for strengthening your bones, as well as calcium, which is the basic building block for making your bones stronger. I'll discuss vitamin D and calcium in more detail in part 3, which covers osteoporosis prevention. At YouTube Medical University, we share data-based information from a doctor's perspective and take responsibility for it. While the internet has easy to understand info, some of it is inaccurate. It's important to have at least one reliable channel, so you don't end up regretting following incorrect information. Please subscribe to the channel to stay updated on new videos. Now, in the third period, I'll explain 3 main ways to prevent or slow the progression of osteoporosis. Here is the first of the 3 osteoporosis prevention methods. It's to take in calcium. Calcium is important for strengthening your bones. Some of you might think, well, that's obvious. But here's a shocking fact. According to a survey conducted in Japan in the first year of Reiwa, people of all ages and genders in Japan were not getting enough calcium. Data shows people in Japan get about half as much calcium as those in the United States. According to the Japanese dietary intake standards, men need 700 to 800 mg of calcium, and even women are said to need at least 650 mg. However, Japanese people are only getting about 500 mg, or at most 600 mg. That means they're chronically lacking in calcium. This mineral, calcium, is actually the most abundant mineral in the entire body. It's said that if you gather all the calcium in the body, it would weigh over 1 kilogram. And calcium isn't just for building bones and teeth. It's also a very important mineral for the proper functioning of the heart and muscles. When calcium levels drop, it can cause symptoms like irregular heartbeat or trembling and stiffness in the hands. Calcium is that important, but I have some bad news for you all. According to the data, the amount of calcium needed to prevent fractures is taking just 600 or 800 mg a day isn't enough. You need to take 1000 to 1200 mg a day. That's what's said to be necessary. In other words, the average calcium intake of Japanese people now is only about half of what's needed, so you have to consciously take about twice as much as you're currently eating. So, I'll introduce 3 recommended foods to help you effectively get calcium from your diet. Drinking milk or eating small fish is too obvious, so I've carefully selected other foods that are easy to include in your daily routine. The first of the 3 recommended foods for getting calcium is roasted sesame seeds. Actually, sesame seeds are also one of the foods rich in calcium. You can easily buy roasted sesame seeds at the supermarket, right? For example, if you sprinkle a tablespoon of roasted sesame seeds on salads or dressings, just by doing that, you'll get about 100 milligrams of calcium. Sesame seeds are easy to add to salads, tofu, or boiled vegetables, so try them. The second recommended food for getting calcium is this: walnuts and almonds. At YouTube Medical University, we've discussed how walnuts and almonds help prevent clogged blood vessels in your heart and brain. They lower the risk and reduce bad cholesterol. That's why walnuts and almonds are such important sources of fat. They contain omega-3 fatty acids, which are healthy fats for your body. And actually, these nuts also contain calcium. So when you're lacking calcium, having a small bag of nuts or walnuts as a snack is highly recommended from the perspective of calcium intake as well. For example, you might mix 10 walnuts and 10 almonds into yogurt and eat it. By doing so, you can take in about 80 mg of calcium. The third recommended food rich in calcium is dried daikon radish strips. Isn't this a bit surprising? I chose this because it's easy to incorporate into your daily life. Dried daikon radish strips are often found in the prepared food section of supermarkets. They're so tasty you end up eating a lot, but since the daikon is cooked until very soft, actually you end up consuming a lot of vegetables. A small bowl of dried daikon radish strips has about 50 mg of calcium, so adding 1 serving to your meal boosts your calcium. You can also make a large batch and eat it gradually. Doing things like this is also recommended for effectively getting calcium, so please give it a try. However, even if you include the foods I just mentioned, it's still quite difficult to get 1000 mg of calcium in a day. Osteoporosis increases with age, and calcium absorption efficiency also declines as you get older. Only about 40% of calcium you consume, even from milk, is absorbed. For other foods, it's usually less. Only about 30% that gets absorbed. As you get older, there are even reports that women in their 60s can only absorb about 10% of the calcium they take in. If your absorption rate is only 10%, in order to get the necessary daily calcium from milk, you'd have to drink 9 200 ml cartons of milk a day. That's how inefficient the absorption is. It's really difficult to get enough calcium. So, while it's not impossible to get enough calcium from just your diet, I think you can see that it's pretty tough. For people like that, I recommend something called absorbable calcium. You can easily absorb calcium with your daily meals. Please let me recommend this absorbable calcium for cooking rice. This product is made by Unica Foods Commerce Ltd, a company specializing in calcium. We developed a unique manufacturing method using scallop shells from the Sea of Okhotsk in Hokkaido, where I live, after years of research. This absorbable calcium was developed with a strong focus on calcium absorption. 3 main points are recommended for this product. First, it was created by a specialized calcium manufacturer after thorough research. It is an outstandingly absorbable calcium. It boasts an absorption rate about 10.4 times higher than milk, and the second point, which is the one I want to emphasize the most, is something you'll understand when you actually try it. The taste and texture of the rice change dramatically. Because this product has a high water retention effect, the rice becomes much fluffier when cooked. Your everyday rice will taste much better. I really want you to try it. Plus, it's an easy way to absorb calcium. Eating just one bowl of rice provides up to 100 mg of calcium, about half the amount in 180 cc of milk. The absorbable calcium, unical calcium for rice cooking, which is packed with years of technology and experience, uses lactic acid calcium made from scallop shells from Hokkaido and fermented lactic acid as its ingredients. Calcium lactic acid from this unique method improves calcium absorption in the intestines. Since it doesn't use any ingredients derived from milk, even people with milk allergies can use it with peace of mind. Personally, I recommend it not only because it helps with calcium absorption, but also because it makes the rice chewy and delicious. I recommend it because it improves your daily rice. Try it to enjoy tastier rice and boost your calcium. I actually had my family try it as well. At first they were skeptical, but after mixing it in and cooking the rice, they found it was easy to use and tasted really good. They said that with this, they feel like they can keep using it. In addition, unical calcium for rice has various other features. Each bottle contains as much as 400 mg of calcium. Because it's granulated and dissolves easily, just mix it with washed rice and water, then cook. Since it cuts live bacteria down to a quarter, it's safe and reliable for lunchboxes. Even people who don't like milk or fish can easily get calcium. The daily calcium intake for adult Japanese women is... If you use this product, just 1.5 bowls of rice can make up for the deficiency. Add unical calcium to your daily rice or lunchboxes for delicious, healthy meals. Simply add 1 stick for fluffy, tasty, calcium-rich rice. Unica Foods Co. Latidi's Unical Calcium for rice cooking is a convenient way to enhance your meals and get absorbable calcium. Even if you take a lot of calcium, it doesn't mean much if you don't have enough vitamin D. That's because vitamin D is the vitamin that helps our bodies absorb the calcium we take in. There's a shocking fact. A study conducted at a Japanese university found that about 98% of Japanese people are said to be lacking in vitamin D. And it's said that people living in the northern regions, where there is less sunlight, are even more deficient in vitamin D. Why is that? Actually, our bodies can produce vitamin D when we are exposed to sunlight. According to research in the United States, it's said that about 15 minutes of ultraviolet exposure per day is enough to produce sufficient vitamin D. So as a guideline, try to get about 15 minutes of sunlight each day. However, unfortunately, you can't produce vitamin D just by getting sunlight through a window. So please try to make a conscious effort to get direct sunlight as much as possible. Producing vitamin D from sunlight is the most efficient way, but if that's still not enough, you can get vitamin D from your diet, or if your vitamin D levels are actually low, vitamin D medication may be prescribed as a treatment for osteoporosis. When you want to easily get vitamin D from your diet, I recommend foods that are easy to find at convenience stores or supermarkets, such as eggs, milk, and fish. Eggs are called a complete food and are rich in vitamin D, and milk, of course, is a good source of calcium. There are also types of milk that have added vitamin D, so I think including those in your diet is also a good option. And third, fish. Especially sockeye salmon is said to be rich in vitamin D. In addition, the more fish you eat, there is even data showing that it can lower your risk of developing vascular diseases in the future. Even just being conscious of choosing fish instead of meat can help you gradually get more vitamin D from your diet. Earlier I mentioned that it's important to get direct sunlight, but too much ultraviolet exposure can actually increase your risk of skin cancer. I've explained the risks of ultraviolet rays and skin cancer in a previous video. Check the description below if you're interested. Habits to prevent and slow osteoporosis. The third habit is exercise. In fact, exercise is said to be the most important thing to prevent osteoporosis in the first place. This is a well-known fact, but astronauts are said to lose bone density at a rate 10 times faster than ordinary elderly people. Why is that? It's because space is a zero-gravity environment. That means there is no load on the bones. As a result, our bodies think if there's no gravity, we won't break any bones, so there's no need to make them stronger, right? Because of that, the body stops building bone, and bones keep getting broken down, making them weaker and more fragile. Even on Earth, we're always under gravity, but if our bones don't get extra load, the body reduces new bone production, making our bones weaker and more fragile. To strengthen our bones, it's important to put the right amount of stress on them, especially for postmenopausal people who have a higher fracture risk. It's recommended that women exercise for at least 30 minutes a day. In terms of producing vitamin D by getting sunlight, I think it's even more effective if you spend about 15 minutes of the 30 exercising outdoors, like walking or jogging in the sun. According to a highly reliable meta-analysis that summarized 10 studies, elderly women who exercised had a 51% lower risk of hip fractures compared to those who didn't exercise. In other words, their risk was reduced by about half. You can see how effective exercise is. So which type should you choose? It was once thought stressing the bones was key. It used to be said that jogging or jumping was good, but now there isn't a single answer. Whether it's jogging or walking, just getting exercise is really beneficial. And according to some studies, combining various exercises like strength training, jogging, jumping and walking, basically doing a variety of activities, may be important. I think it's important to take things step by step and do what you find easy to incorporate. Quitting running after 3 days defeats the purpose. Instead, walk 10 minutes out and back. Let's begin with a daily 20-minute walk. Staying within a manageable range is key. I think this mindset is what truly matters, whether you're starting a new exercise or continuing one. Let me know in the comments how it was. We discussed habits to prevent osteoporosis and some surprising symptoms. We discussed screening methods and treatments, and I covered many topics. Thanks for watching until the end. Thank you very much. I would be happy if you could review the video by listening to it multiple times or taking notes. And whether it's the like button or the dislike button, rating this video helps me make more content. At YouTube Medical University, I'll keep explaining health topics in a fun, simple way from a doctor's view to help you get healthier. Subscribe to the channel to catch new videos. It really encourages me. See you in the next video.